Welcome back again. And now we move into the final part of this workshop, where we're going to move a little more into the ancient practice of yoga and experience its wonderful, wonderful benefits. So in this section, we go deeper into awareness and also understanding how the mind works and affects not only our emotions but also our actions. And actually, what this means is that the mind is the root of all our decision making processes, and not just the decisions that we make, but actually how we feel. And as I explained earlier, the mind also creates stress and anxiety and has an impact on the physical body, the section that we first dealt with in the beginning of the workshop. So what's really important to understand again over here is that all your thoughts affect your emotions, how you feel, which then determines what your actions are. In yogic terms, action does not just refer to physical action, but it also refers to your speech. So how you think. So if you're thinking in a negative manner, you can be rest assured that you're going to start feeling very down, negative, unhappy, and then your resulting action, whether it's what you say or what you do, will not support your well-being. People who don't feel good within themselves, who are not feeling happy, who are frustrated and angry, do not jump out and do acts of kindness or generosity in the world. In fact, the corresponding actions not only harm themselves, but very often also harms the environment. So what the practice of yoga is trying to get us to take responsibility for is the individual self. I can't change the people around me. And I can spend my entire life having interesting discussions on how to change the world and talking about the monstrosities and awful events in the world. However, what yoga is getting us to understand is that unless each and every one of us take responsibility for our individual selves, we cannot raise human consciousness and live in a much happier and kinder and gentler world. So we now need to come to the root of the impact of the thoughts, emotions, and actions, which is the mind. So it's very important that we learn how to work with the mind so that we take responsibility for our thoughts, which then affects our emotions and then our actions. So learning how to think in a much more positive and uplifting manner so that we can feel good, feel happier and more balanced is what results in actions that are not only supportive to ourselves, but also to the people and our environments that we live in. So the first lesson that we're going to learn is to become a much more responsive versus a reactive human being. Reaction is oriented in negativity. Something happens to us and we immediately react back. It's an instant reaction. So to just simplify this, if someone was to slap you, you would instantly slap them back, as opposed to something or happening to you, and before you decide to act, you step back, take a moment, and then decide how to respond appropriately to the situation. Reaction is oriented in negativity. Responsiveness is oriented in positivity. A responsive person will always take the time to gather the necessary information, to reflect upon the information that they have in front of them, and then to decide what is the best way to deal with the person or the situation in a manner that best supports their individual well-being and that of the environment that they are functioning in. A reactive human being does not think. Something happens to them, and without even taking a moment to reflect upon what has happened, they immediately, through a much more unstable state of mind, make a decision. And unfortunately, decisions and actions made in a reactive state very often do not support our well-being, and in fact lead to much more chaotic outcomes. So it's important for us to understand the difference between response and reaction, being a more responsive person versus being a reactive human being. So my mantra for everything in my life is to stop, breathe, think, and act. If you remember, we talked about the fact that we're living in an environment that's highly volatile, impermanent, and uncertain. We can't change this. However, the only thing that we have control over is ourselves and how we respond to all the situations and people in our life. So it's very important that we become ingrained in this method of stopping first, breathing, thinking, and then acting. Yoga teaches us that if our emotions are charged, if the mind is chaotic, if your heartbeat is fast, and if your breathing is erratic, to do nothing. And doing nothing means that you may choose to stop and take a deep breath and wait for 5 minutes, perhaps an hour, 24 hours, a few months, and even a year, depending upon the magnitude of the situation. But really what yoga is teaching us, that until we have clarity with which we are looking at the situation, until we have enough information to help us reflect upon the situation and analyze the situation, we shouldn't do anything. So a simple mantra for you to learn is to stop, breathe, allow the mind to relax, for your heart rate, for your emotions to calm down. And only when you are in a much more balanced and stable state of mind and emotions should you allow yourself to think and reflect upon the situation, and then to make a decision on how to act, whether you're doing a physical action or whether you are actually speaking. All decisions and actions that come from an imbalanced state of mind or highly charged emotions often end in erroneous decision making, and all your actions, all your decisions then have a long-term impact on not only your health and well-being, but on your environment. And then each and every one of us are forced to confront the impact of the decisions and the actions that we have made. And this becomes an inherent part of our life experiences because it affects the quality of the life that you live. So a simple mantra for you to remember over and over again is that when you are confronted with a difficult situation or a difficult person, do nothing. Stop. Wait. Breathe. Put into practice the breathing practices that you have just learned in the last 2 sections. Allow yourself to just feel your breath. Slow down your breathing, feeling each inhalation and exhalation. As you stay with the breath, not only does the breath help you become present, but it helps you relax your mind to come into a much more balanced and calmer state of being. And once you have regained control of yourself, of your mind, your emotions, and your breath, you can take a moment to just look at the situation, to reflect upon it. And remember, reflection and taking the time to feel balanced may take 5 minutes. If the situation is much more complex, it could take a few hours. Maybe you need to sleep over it, or it may even take longer than that. But the point is to be very firm, to give yourself the space, to allow your mind to become clear, to become less chaotic and restless, to allow your emotions to be calm before you allow yourself to even think about the situation or the person, and then to come into appropriate action. So stop, breathe, think, and act is your mantra from here onwards every time you come upon conflict or a challenging situation. Now we're going to go into a guided breath meditation. And we're first going to talk about the importance of the breath. Why is it that in all the holistic practices, whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, any of the martial arts, that the breath plays such a significant role in one's life or in the practices. Your breath is the only aspect of you that can happen right here, right now. You cannot breathe in the future, and neither can you breathe in the past. Not only is your breath happening in the here and the now, but the breath is that aspect of you that is with you at all times, and it's free. So when you understand that the breath is the manner, the modality in which you bring a constantly thinking and dreaming mind into the present, you begin to understand the integral importance of the breath. Unfortunately, all of us are constantly clinging on to people and situations and things in our physical world, hoping that these things will bring us peace, permanence, and certainty. But the reality is that anything that belongs to the physical environment is constantly changing. And if we attach ourselves to people and things to make us happy, to make us peaceful, to give us the satisfaction that we are looking for, because these people and things are constantly changing, then our life, in fact, becomes a roller coaster ride. But when you begin to understand the importance of the breath, that the breath actually serves as your anchor to keep you rooted in the present, to keep you right here, right now, then we start to approach life and to see life with a whole new perspective. Because we're learning how to train the mind to be present, as opposed to the mind coming in like the tsunami and dragging you away into an imaginary world where it starts storytelling. If the story is positive, you're going to feel extremely good and happy. But if the story is negative, it's just a question of time before you start feeling anxious, stressed, irritated, angry, and frustrated. So this journey is about training the mind on the breath so that the breath serves as an anchor to bring you back into the present and to start living your life awake, alert, and in the here and the now. You will need to access the breath meditation in the next video. It's a standalone piece, so that in the future, if you ever want to just download the guided meditation and maybe even use it every single day, you're welcome to do that. So you need to exit from here right now and access the breath meditation video.